Hey, 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 welcome back after the bye week. Another episode of the Steelers Chat. And you know, I had to get Alex Kozora. I had to talk to him. We are at such a critical, pivotal time right now in the season, and I think it can be revived. But we're going to ask Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hey D, how you doing? I need a good setup like yours. You have this great setup with the jerseys, and I just look like I just broke into someone's house to record this, so I
No,
apologize
it's
for
all
that.
right. It's literally all I have. So I was like, make use of them.
But no, I'm excited. Yeah, I mean this season, 2-6, it's a big hole to climb out of. But I'm optimistic for this Sunday, and so I'm just looking for the little wins right now to kind of get us through this year.
I think that is exactly the energy that's going around with the team right now. They're very optimistic. I think they think they're going to go like 9-0 right now. I don't know if that's possible, but it's a lot of divisional games on the schedule. So we know those can go anyway. Looking at the schedule here, I actually had it, New Orleans, of course, on Sunday, Cincinnati, Indy, Atlanta, Baltimore, Carolina, Las Vegas, Baltimore, and then ending the year with Cleveland. It seems like we haven't been able to get out of a season where we weren't, except for when we went that 11-0 run, we were kind of every season beyond that. It feels like we've been waiting till the last week to figure out if we had a chance, get in or whatever. It's kind of been like a history thing. Only a few times where we've been extremely comfortable. That year we played the Jaguars, and then the year we played the Cleveland Browns. So it does seem like the team is optimistic. What do you think we come out in these next few games or next 9 games?
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough to tell. There's so much projection, so many things that'll change. Certainly, I don't like to call any game on a schedule easy, but I think the
Mhm.
schedule is certainly more forgiving and, relatively speaking, easier. You're not facing the Eagles and the Bills and, the Dolphins and teams like that. And the AFC North games, as you mentioned, are always close, always competitive, or most of the time. So, my prediction, I think Dave and I did on the podcast Monday, I had them at 5-4 to finish. So that puts them 6-11 for the year because does look better when you're facing Carolina, Atlanta, and things like that. And of course, the return of TJ Watt. But main focus on the here and now. And on paper, whatever that's worth, Pittsburgh looks to be in good position. They're at home off a bye week facing the Saints, who are on the road on a short week with key injuries to their offensive line, to their linebacker room. And that should put Pittsburgh in a on paper position to come out with a victory.
A super short week for the Saints. For them to play Monday night and then have to go play on Thursday, I mean on Sunday, it's tough. It's tough. So no, they played Thursday night, correct?
The
No,
Saints
when did
played Monday
they
night
played
against
Monday night.
Baltimore, and
Sorry,
then they're coming to
Monday
Pittsburgh
night. Then
Sunday.
they're
Yep.
playing on Sunday. It is tough on the road, but it is football. Every team has to do it. So, I mean, not every team that has the luxury of playing on Monday, but it is what it is. But of course, the hot topic is TJ Watt's return to the team. What are you feeling about the amount of snaps, the amount of plays he's going to play on his return?
I know defensive coordinator Terrell Austin said, "Oh, there might be a snap count, and it's T.J. Watt. That might look good on paper, but you try telling T.J. Watt mid game to come out before a third down, So
Yeah.
I think there may be some slight element of a reduction in snaps from a conditioning aspect, but end of the day, he's T.J. Watt. He's had multiple weeks to ramp up in practice. It's not like he's coming back in his first week. He's been working, so Watt should play about his full complement of snaps against the Saints.
So were you on edge against the Eagles that he was going to play? I think everyone was kind of like waiting to the last absolute second to find that out. How are you feeling about that? Did
I
you want it
was
to go or you were like, "Nah, he should wait another week?"
I mean, if he was healthy and cleared, I was ready for him to play because to me that was that last must-win game. The difference between 3-5 and 2-6 was great, but if he wasn't, fully healthy and there was some risk there and he wasn't ready, then I'm okay with him sitting. So whatever is best for him, and I assume the team made that correct decision there. But I really didn't know if he was going to play or not. I was just kind of in wait and see mode, and unfortunately he
Yeah.
didn't play. But that I assume will be the best thing for him long term.
Yeah, so the major injury is Chris Boswell, him going on IR. Of course we have his replacement, but do you think that significantly impacts the team? Because they didn't put him on IR 2 weeks ago. They just decided to put him on this week. So that's 4 weeks out of the 9 games you have left. Do you are you worried? Should we be worried?
Yeah, I mean, it's significant. They've had to rely on Boswell a lot. I mean, he's been the
Yeah.
biggest source of their offense this year,
Yeah.
and his ability to hit from 50 plus. I mean, it used to be in Pittsburgh, you never even attempted from 50 plus in Pittsburgh because it was just, a death sentence. You might as well just give the opponent the ball back. But Boswell's been fantastic. He's getting close to having more 50 plus yard makes in his career than all other Steelers kickers combined in history. And
Yeah.
part of
That's
that's
pretty
era and
wild.
kickers are better and stuff like that. I understand that, but he's been fantastic. But Matthew Wright's a good kicker. He's got experience. He started his career in Pittsburgh back in 19 and 20. And with Wright, whenever he came into the league out of Central Florida, he had no leg. I mean, his distance was maybe 50 yards max. I remember being in a training camp and he could barely get over the crossbar 50 plus. But when you're in the NFL for a couple of years, you're really focused on that. His leg strength has improved by a remarkable amount. I mean, he hit a 59 yarder at Arrowhead earlier this year, a Chiefs franchise record. So he's not Boswell, but they do have a good kicker in Matthew Wright, and they'll probably have to rely on him quite a bit based on how this offense has struggled to finish drives.
Yeah. So I'm excited for the offense. I know you're probably like, why are you excited for the offense? Because I felt like the play calling got better for the offense. You should correct me, or if you agree, or let me know if you agree or disagree. Not necessarily correct me, but let me know if you agree. Um, the play calling got better. The execution just was not there. How do
Yeah,
you?
I would say I'm not as angry at Matt Canada as I was the first 5
Mhm.
weeks of the year. Not to say that it's going great, and ultimately he bears the responsibility of the results of this offense. And they're the 31st ranked scoring offense at 15 points per game, on pace to
Yeah.
be their worst mark since 1970. But I feel like in the Dolphins game and the Eagles game, it was more execution based. A lot of
Mhm.
unforced errors, a ton of penalties in the second half against Miami. And they went from that 3rd and 1 to 3rd and 16 in the fourth quarter. That really sums up where this team is at. And then Philadelphia, 5 first half penalties on offense, 8 total in that game. And you're playing from behind. You're just in a really difficult spot against a great Eagles pass rush. So again, does not absolve Canada, and ultimately coaches have to be able to cut down on some of these penalties. But I would lean it towards more of the player execution problems recently as opposed to schematic game plan issues.
What's up with the illegal man downfield? I know it's killing this team, but it's killing other teams in the league. Like, what is it something that you think the refs worked on the offseason to call? Because I have not seen this being called as many times as I've seen in this entire season.
I'd have to run some of the numbers. I had an assistant coach in the NFL tell me earlier this year the league was cracking down on those calls, and that seems to
Okay.
be my feel about it. Now, Pittsburgh still has been heavily penalized 5 times this year. They've been called for those penalties. That's tied for the most in football. And there are some teams that have 0 or 1 calls, so it's not happening to every team. Some of that's the RPO game. If the ball doesn't come out quickly enough, if the quarterback's hesitating, or there's something messy with the pass game picture, then that's going to lead to those calls because the linemen, they don't know what's happening. They just have to assume run. They're firing off the football. There are some things you can work on. You're allowed to be 1 yard past the line of scrimmage if you're making contact with a defender. And so maybe you hold that double team a bit better and longer as opposed to trying to get to the linebacker. So it's been messy, though, and it's been unacceptable, and they have to cut down those penalties.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a lineman's definitely going to be looking behind him every step of the
Right.
way, but it's obviously something that the refs have their eyes on, and still just definitely have to clean up. I don't want to talk about this, but we have to.
I feel like
The
we've been
running
saying that
back
a lot this
situation.
year. I feel like that's been the
Yeah,
intro
I don't
phrase.
wanna talk about the running back situation because I am actually really positive on it. Um, Everyone else may not be. I think you still have a dynamic duo in our 2 running backs, and, I just want to see them both used more. Losing Chase Claypool, which we'll get to in a second, you have to execute those running backs more, whether if you're using them in the passing game or running. But how do you feel about, maybe some of the criticism that's surrounding the running back room?
Yeah, I mean, I have not given up on Najee Harris. I know that
Mhm.
a lot of people have and are ready to kind of throw in the towel on him. I still think he's a really talented guy having a tough year, and the circumstances of an offensive line that's not been great and game
Right.
script of this team playing from behind isn't helping him. But I understand he's struggling this year. And listen, Jalen Warren, schematically based on what the team needs right now, is the better fit. He is the more north south runner. He's a more downhill guy. And this offense just has to get something going with the run game. They're not getting big plays. They just have to be able to kind of stay on schedule and at least be relatively efficient. And Warren has done that and proven that. And he's been a third down back for a couple weeks now. And he's played
Yeah.
really well. He's a high effort guy. He's a yards after contact kind of guy. I love watching him play. So I haven't given up on Harris, but you recognize this team just needs to find ways to move the football. And every time Warren touches the ball, generally speaking, good things have happened. I understand a little bit of that is garbage time stuff, but even if you eliminate the garbage time stats, Warren's yards per carry is a full yard higher than Najee Harris. So we'll see how it looks. I think
Yeah.
maybe Warren will get a bit of an increase in play time on early downs, but we'll see how it ultimately turns out. And the offensive line just has to be better, obviously.
And I'm all about competition. Like, I don't think that I know people like to look at it negatively, but I'm all about competition. You come in there, whoever is doing the better job may get a little bit more time. It just is what it is. But the ultimate, the ultimate thing here is to win games. So we got to figure out a way to win. So back to Chase Claypool. Of course, we lost him in the trade at the trade deadline to the Chicago Bears for some picks. I'm not actually mad at the business move. And it was actually something I thought about in the beginning of the season briefly because we were so loaded at wide receiver. But of course, we lost Calvin Austin. And we lost what Miller. We lost some guys like due to injuries and whatever else prior to the roster being set. And I thought Chase Claypool was solid with staying with this team. And given our circumstances, he left. And they got some draft picks for him. But what was your feeling about the trade? Do you think it was a good trade? And then we'll kind of go on to like who and how they replace him.
I think it was a home run trade, D. I mean, a
Yeah,
second round pick for Claypool, to me, a guy that's underwhelmed the last 2 years, a former second round pick himself. I mean, I think that's a great move from Omar Khan and Andy Weidel. And listen, maybe this guy flourishes in Chicago. Maybe he's a better, systems fit, scheme fit. I think he'll be more of a focal point in that offense. But
yeah,
it was not working in Pittsburgh. He was drafted to be an outside Z receiver, vertical type guy. He never really consistently was that guy. He had the on paper talent, the height, weight, speed, really couldn't stack guys, couldn't win contested consistently, didn't always play to his size. Kind of saw that in his Chicago debut as well. Bump him inside of the slot this year to replace Juju. Not a good fit there, not comfortable, not going to be that nuanced route runner and things
yeah.
like that. And clearly, he even spoke about it himself that he really didn't like playing in the slot. No surprise there. So just wasn't, there was no way to make him work in this offense. So to trade him in general, I was okay with. Then to get a second round pick and probably going to be a
Yeah.
top 40, top 45 pick to me is excellent return on
Mhm.
investment. This guy's going to be a free agent after 2023. End of the day, cut your losses, move on. And again,
Yep.
they got tremendous value for him.
I know it's hard for some fans to let a guy like that go, but like what you got for him, the value you got from him at that time, I think his uh, great game helped. It helped the value of this trade, and he was actually one of my keys. You have to use the middle of the field. So now that we have him missing in the middle of the field, Sims is probably the guy that's going to fill in. But what's your view and opinion on that slot position being filled?
Sure, Steven Sims will be the next man up, but he won't be the only man up. They're going to probably work different people in there. Gunnar Olszewski could see some time. They may move
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson inside occasionally and play Miles Boykin on the outside. I mean, it used to be where you played one spot back in the AB days. It was AB was your X, and you always had one designated slot. They didn't move those guys around too much. That's kind of changed in the
Change,
post
yeah, for
AB
sure.
landscape of it. But yeah, Sims will be the first guy. He'll be using the jet run game. Saw some success there against Philadelphia. I have a soft spot for guys who look like me. They're just short. He's 5'8". I mean, he's a great
I
story though.
do.
He's a two-star recruit out of high school. Only had one FBS offer. That was the Kansas. He played on some bad Kansas teams. I mean, they won 6 games total in his whole college career. Undrafted, makes a team as a rookie in Washington, and has climbed the ladder in Pittsburgh from practice squad to return man to starting slot guy. So he's not going to be the next great Steelers receiver, and he'll be a bit piece in this offense. But hopefully they can, as you said, can use him middle of the field, yards after catch, and he's just a good story, a good guy to root for. I'm
He
excited to watch him.
is, and for those that don't know, him and Dwayne Haskins, were really close.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they were. He was actually at, Dwayne's ceremony, and that's the first time I kinda, like, paid attention to him. I didn't even know who he was, and then after that moment, I paid attention to him, and then next thing I know, he shows up at training camp. Thought that was awesome. It's an awesome story for me, and, seeing him succeed on special teams, we needed that. We needed that boost, that speed. It's amazing to see. I get so excited when he's running one back. They've been switching between him and Gunner. I believe the last game, I believe it was the last game they were switching. But We'll see if his special teams time continues with him probably playing more in the slot. I think it probably will because he's
Yeah.
been giving us the best bang for our buck on special teams,
Right.
and that
And
is
and I
enough.
and I shouldn't insult him by saying he looks like me. We're short, but he's a lot more muscular. We should don't look the same, but I like any short king out there, and so I
Yeah,
just want
I
to.
root for
It's
him.
just cool to see the opportunity. How will it go? I don't know. Will this team have to add a receiver next year? Probably. We'll see with Austin coming back as well. But I'm just excited to see the opportunity.
Yeah. So, um, the other issue that doesn't get talked about, but you brought it up at the beginning of the season, so I really want to talk about it. Special teams. We did talk about, of course, the kicker situation, but Harvin. I mean, how are you feeling about him? What do we got to do? What do we have to do to improve on some of these on these punts?
It has been better, but has it been good enough? And as the weather begins to turn cold, which it'll really start Sunday, I believe in Pittsburgh it'll be 40 and very
Yeah,
windy. You worry
it's
about
gonna
those
start in the
numbers.
30s and
Yeah.
slowly make its way up, so not looking good weather-wise.
Those numbers probably tick off some. He's about average in net,
Mhm.
and his actual punting average before net is pretty poor. So I really don't know what the issue is. I mean, it is generally speaking consistency. That's always been the issue I've had with him, even coming out of Georgia Tech. Big leg and have some great punts, but do you find that consistency? That's been an issue. And I wish I had a good answer for how to solve that, but that's really what it comes down to. Is if you to be a specialist, to be a kicker or punter, number one thing you have to be is consistent. You can't be unpredictable. You can't be untrustworthy in terms of it'll be a good kick, bad kick, whatever, good punt, bad punt. And Harvin's kind of in that boat right now. That's what he has to work on.
Yeah, so we'll see if he gets it together. You had an opinion about our latest acquisition. Is it Mr. Williams from Washington, the corner?
Yep.
So how did you feel watching film? I didn't go back and look at any of his film. I got that he's, a man guy. You put him in positions where you're playing man. But how did you feel watching film on him?
Well, first of all, it's a very Steelers move to make. That was the guy they wanted in 2016. The guy they said that they were gonna take him before the
Mm-hmm.
Bengals took him one pick ahead of the Steelers take Artie Burns. Know the rest of the story there. So it all kind of comes full circle. I mean, he's a
No comment.
talented guy. I mean, he's long, he can run, he can play man coverage, and some of the more advanced metrics show that he wasn't playing a lot of man in Washington, and he should play some more man coverage in Pittsburgh. I just worry about it blocking some young guy opportunities like James Pierre. I really want to see more from Pierre the rest of the way. I think he's had a good season so far, but I want to see a bigger body of work instead of a smaller sample size. And so hopefully that is not blocking. But now Jackson has the back injury. Doesn't appear he's going to play. We'll get the official injury report here soon. And so there's that back issue creeping up with him. And I don't know how that may limit him going forward, but it does not sound like he's going to be available for Sunday's game.
Did I call him Jack? Did I call him Williams? I'm so sorry.
Well, yeah, William Jackson. I forgot. I knew who you were talking
William.
about.
Okay, I want to make sure I said it right. So yeah, Williams. I'm sorry. But, for him, I'm excited to see. I mean, I feel like at the corner position, with the injuries that we've had and the movement that we had, um, it's kinda like I'm open to plug and play and see what we can come up with because, Witherspoon's dealing with the hamstring injury. It's obviously was a significant injury for him to be out several weeks and probably hadn't properly recovered from it, but because we have Levi out, Cam suffering from whatever, Minka still had a knee and we need the bodies. James Pierre still, I don't think he was probably 100% from when he filled in. He was banged up as well. So I'm excited to get another corner in there and see how we can improve because we're getting killed some days.
Yeah, and
We're
the
getting
investment was
killed.
light. It was a 2025 six-round conditional pick. I mean, it's as cheap can get, so I can't
Yeah.
be too mad at the move there. I understand it, but you're 2 and 6, you're buying. He's not gonna be
Yeah,
a Steeler
you you're,
next year.
you're
I
trying
just
to see what can work, right? At,
yeah.
at this point, we're just kind of throwing things out the wall, and I think they have the leeway to do it. I know people complain all the time, but I think this is a season where you get to make mistakes, you get to be wrong. It sucks. It's gonna hurt. It's going to be painful, but everyone is growing. Everyone has to gel together, and I don't know if Matt Canada will be here next season. but it's going to be painful this season, and it's still going to be painful if they bring in another offensive coordinator because it's you're going to be learning all over again. I just hope that people have patience.
They don't. They do not have patience. But you're right. It's a transitional period. But I will say, I mean, turnarounds can and should happen quickly. The expectation shouldn't be this team is bad for the next 3, 4 years. Look at the Eagles. They won 4 games 2 years ago, and now they're 8-0. I mean, they're Super Bowl favorites
Yeah.
right now. So at least in the NFC. So things can and need to get turned around sooner than later.
So, do you have a prediction for Sunday's game against the Saints? I'm still stuck on the 21 points here, so I would love to hear what you have to say.
I'm going over. I mean, they've not this offense has not scored more than 20 points in a game all season. They had 23 in the opener thanks to Minka's pick six. But I'm the kiss of death when it comes to predicting games. But I got Pittsburgh. I'm gonna take one last optimistic view. I got Pittsburgh 23-20 over the Saints for mostly the reasons I mentioned earlier. The Saints being on a short week on the road with some key injuries. Pittsburgh off the bye at home. TJ Watt returns. That'll be huge just to simplify that defense and
Just
be able
energy
to rush
wise.
for 100% on energy. How do you handle Kamara? How do you handle Taysom Hill? Those will be big things to watch for Pittsburgh. How does Kenny Pickett? The biggest concern I have for this game, I'll give you 2 words on that, D. Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, he's a guy that is licking his chops for going after Kenny Pickett this weekend. And so being able to identify, read him, making sure Matthew does not take over this game, that's going to be probably one of the X factors of this contest.
Yeah, they have some significant injuries on defense. So, and is it Cameron Jordan is on the report there too. So I don't know if he's playing or not, but I think containing Kamara is going to be critical. Of course, you got your Swiss Army knife and Taysom Hill, which I was really mad that they didn't use him last week against the Ravens as much as they should have. Like, we're familiar with Andy Dalton, so I don't think that's a problem. But Taysom Hill, that Swiss Army knife, you just never know what you're gonna get with that offense. But if we can contain the run and contain him and whatever trickery I think we'll be okay. But the problem to me is always on the other side of the ball. We have to get in the end zone. We have to score touchdowns. It's so critical. We struggle there, but hopefully the play calling will help these guys be creative and get the guy get unlikely guys like a Derek Watt in the end zone. Like beautiful, right?
Mhm.
Love that. But I'm optimistic and I'm gonna go Steelers too. I haven't got a score prediction yet, but
No,
yeah.
low scoring. I imagine that you're not predicting
Yeah,
35 31.
yeah, definitely low scoring because I really want to go 23, but I'm not confident yet. They gotta prove me wrong there for sure.
Yeah, if this was blackjack, Pittsburgh would be great because they're great at not going over 21. They stay on 20 all the time, but
It is
need more than
insane.
that in the NFL.
It's insane. And with these teams coming up, the schedule coming up, with the exception of what Atlanta, maybe the Colts, and but even Carolina's been able to do it. Uh, over the 21 mark, but you can't go into Baltimore and think that you can only score 14 points or 17 points. I know we play them tough, but it's just like it's really hard. It's really hard.
Right.
So I
Yep.
mean, they're
Yep.
gonna give you at least one half of a minimum of 14. So whether it's the first half or the second half, you got to be able to score. But yeah, but thank you so much, Alex. Again, for those that are new, that haven't heard you before for some weird reason, please let them know where they can find you.
You can follow me on Twitter at Alex_Kozora and check out the site SteelersDepot.com. We'll be covering it win or loss after the Saints game.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex. I will be talking to you after the game. I'll be following you during the game and before everything leads up. I'm sure the injury report is going to hit as soon as we hit end on the show. And
Probably.
we'll find out what's going to be happening. But thank you so much, man. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks, D. Take care.
Me too.